Hello, welcome. I'm so excited to do this live with you guys today. We're actually going to get a little bit more personal today because I'm going to share with you guys how I finally broke my cycle of overwhelm. So I'm going to tell you what it looks like, why it's an actual cycle, because it's a cycle, it keeps going, and kind of all the things about it. So what we're going to be talking about today is my story of overwhelm, one of one of the many in the cycle, and then we're going to talk about the common cycles behind overwhelm, kind of what happens in the cycle, and then some mindset shifts that actually help with calming and coming out of the cycle, as well as tools that help. So I'm going to share a couple tools with you guys today. I think two or three, and then we'll be done and we'll talk about next week. But getting into it, how many of you, go ahead and raise your hands, or like, love, angry face, whatever, comment. How many of you have been in overwhelm, have actually identified it and been like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed? And I know that, we have moments on the day to day where in this moment right now for about 5 minutes, I'm overwhelmed, then I walk away and it's fine. But there's also extended overwhelm. There's long periods of it where we're just in this constant state of, oh my gosh, what's going on? So how many of you have been there? Go ahead and let us know, in the comments and stuff. As usual, I can't see the comments or anything right now, but I always go back and address comments, answer questions, things like that. So make sure that you ask questions while we're going through this, okay? So the feeling of overwhelm, right? It's the idea that you have a long to-do list, you're full of stress, you feel behind, just constantly behind, like you can't catch up, or you're just not able to do anything else. You're not able to take on more, you're not able to achieve more, to add more to your plate. That's overwhelm. And in many cases, it can be an extended period of time, okay? So how I finally broke the overwhelm cycle, okay? My story is that when I first have a couple, but when I first moved out to Huntsville, where we live now, I started a job. And the thing was, at the beginning, it was really exciting, all being busy just constantly. And I would work 10 plus hour days, especially when we went back to the office, because my living situation, I was staying in one of the extended stay hotels, and it was miserable. It was gross. It was disgusting. I hated it. Um, but it was about all I could afford at the time. And it was the best for the situation. I was by myself. I didn't have my family with me. And so I would work 10 plus hour days to not have to go back to that hotel room. And being there in the moment at the time for a couple of months, for 4 or 5 months, it was good because it was new and exciting, and I was happy. Uh, but with that came a huge crash, okay? Because in the excitement of the new, in the excitement of the possibility and building and growing, I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't regulating my nervous system. I wasn't checking in. So the thing about overwhelm and all of it, the mental breakdown, the exhaustion, just all of it, is that it starts when things are good. when when you start with, I've actually been talking to quite a few people recently who are like, well, I'm fine now. Right now things are good. I'm excited about prospects. There's things going on. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful to be happy now. But if you don't do something to change the cycle, then the cycle continues. Okay. And I didn't. I didn't do anything to change the cycle. I didn't do anything to regulate my nervous system. I didn't do anything to take care of myself. And in fact, that's when I stopped working out as much as I had previously, prior military. So I worked out all the time. But when COVID happened and we went in lockdown and everything happened and I moved across the country, things changed, life changed, and I wasn't taking care of my own needs. I was focusing on this new job, learning, growing as fast and as quickly as I could, taking on as much as I could in this new job. My family was spread across the country. My girls, my youngest two, were with my in-laws down in Birmingham, and then my husband and the oldest kids were back in Albuquerque because of everything that was happening with the pandemic. And so there was a lot going on. And the thing is that when we finally got around to taking some vacation, to taking some time off and going and spending time with the family, by the time that actually happened, I didn't need to put in PTO. I didn't need to, because I had worked so many hours. In every like 2-week work period, I would hit 80 hours by Friday. I was working double. It was insane, the amount of hours that I was putting in. And when we went on this vacation, luckily I didn't have cell signal, so that was fantastic. But we'd be out on a boat with the kids and I'd fall asleep. So we're on vacation, supposed to be making these wonderful memories with our kids, and my husband would be like, don't bug mommy, let her get some rest, she's really tired. And yeah, I really needed the rest, but I'm pretty pissed at myself for not being present in those moments. The fact that I pushed myself to that burnout, to where when I should have been focusing on my family and making memories with my family and being present in those moments, I was burnt out. I was exhausted. I had been overwhelmed. My nervous system was just in a wreck. And I just slept. I slept almost the whole vacation. That I have moments, I have memories that I remember from that vacation, but I had gotten myself to the point where I couldn't really recover. And so when you say yes to everything, even if you're in those exciting moments of, yeah, everything's good, I can take on more, this is awesome, if you're not checking in to make sure and regulate where you actually are, then what that excitement and all of the taking on the new tasks and yes and yes and yes, it leads to the overwhelm. It leads to the exhaustion. It leads to the burnout and everything that comes after it. And so that running on fumes, that no breathing space, not taking time for yourself because you're so wrapped up in this, I think everything is great right now, that drives to burnout, to the exhaustion, and it's miserable. I'm curious how many people have been there where you, I mean, it is a cycle. It's a huge cycle. You go through the periods, and a lot of times it's, starting a new job, or a project ended and now you're on a new project and you have the excitement of the new project. All kinds of things can happen that create and feed the fuel to that cycle. So burnout then happens, and it's caused because you get the brain fog, you feel like you can't get caught up because you've often overcommitted yourself. Okay, so this is why it's a cycle, because you're good, you feel like, I'm fine right now, everything is okay, everything feels good, I can take on the world, and you feel incredible, and then you get into the cycles of being overwhelmed, okay, of being in that moment. And so the cycle starts, and all of a sudden, the pendulum kind of starts to swing, and you've overcommitted due to obligation, pressure, could be manning issues at work, you're understaffed, or you feel like you don't have time to train someone else to do the task. And so you overcommit with good intention to start, and you think, I'll just do it, I'll just get it done, I'm the person who can do it, so I'll just get it done, rather than teaching somebody, because that would take too long, the whole thing, right? Or if it's not, well, if you get into the overcommit part, then what follows often is the guilt. And so you feel bad for resting, for needing rest, because the job's not done. You committed yourself to doing it, but now it's not done and you're exhausted, and you think, well, I'll get rest next week. I'll take care of it next week. I'll sleep over the weekend. I'll get 1 or 2 hours of sleep tonight, and then I'll sleep over the weekend. And so you feel guilty because the job isn't done, or maybe you need help, but you're afraid to ask, to voice it, to say, I am way overtasked right now, I can't do this. And then you start criticizing yourself, because I should be doing more, I can do more. Just a month ago, when I was excited about everything, I was doing more. Why can't I do more now? Well, the problem is, it's not sustainable. When you were happy and you had all the endorphins and everything going on, that you were excited and everything was going great, maybe you got a promotion, something wonderful happened, and then you overcommitted, so then you built the guilt, and then now you're criticizing yourself because you overcommitted. And then at some point, eventually, it starts feeling good again, and there's hope again, and there's excitement, and you get back on that uphill ride, that uphill path, and or you're on the downhill path. So it's just a constant up and down, and a cycle of this. Everything's great, and then all of a sudden it's bad again, and then eventually, and it may take a year or even 2 years to get all the way through that cycle. It can take a long time. It's not necessarily a month, but for some people, maybe it is a month where everything's going great and we're on the uphill and everything's wonderful. And then now everything's back down because you feel awful and all the things are happening again. And the thing is you can't maintain that high level of the productivity and all the things, especially if you're overcommitting. Okay. And we think too sometimes, well, maybe it's just the season. It's the season that's happening. Well, that season comes around every year. And so you go through this every year. So wouldn't it be wonderful if you could just stay in the good without the overwhelm, without the guilt, without criticizing yourself, without having to get back to the good? Wouldn't it be better to just kind of keep like a homeostasis where you just are good, where it just levels out and it's just good all of the time? Because that's what I learned how to do. I learned after all of the overwhelm and the burnout and that cycle that you can actually level the line. You can be good for long periods. And then the downs, the overwhelm, the burnout, if you do get it, it's much shorter. And it's easier to manage because now you have tools, you learned how to recognize it, and you can actually process it. Oh, I overcommitted myself again. Shouldn't have done that. So let's talk about some mindset shifts, okay, that seriously just changed everything for me, okay? One of the biggest ones for me was more doesn't mean better. Okay. And a lot of this goes into kind of a CEO level mind shift. Okay. Where we're shifting things to work a little bit better. And the thing is that just because I'm doing more doesn't mean I'm doing better. Okay. So I learned how to do the right tasks at the right time versus everything. And I learned to optimize, and I learned to automate, and I learned all of these different skills to put focus instead of around this big, huge, giant thing. I could put focus on little things, and I could delegate, and I could have other people do things. I could take on the things I wanted to, or the things that I liked, the things that would move the needle the most, and kind of push everything else off. So more does not by any means mean better. Okay. And then I also learned that rest is crazy productive. Once again, I hate the word productive, but rest really is productive. And it seems kind of counterintuitive because most often when you're in overwhelm and you've overcommitted, taking rest feels guilty. You feel guilty for doing it because you think you have to be doing things. And being restful isn't productive. Well, rest is productive because you're rejuvenating, re-energizing, and you're taking care of yourself. Okay. And it's kind of like, I love the metaphor of put your oxygen mask on first. Anyone who flies anywhere, what they tell you in the safety brief before you take off is if the oxygen mask drops down, put yours on first, and then anybody else who's with you. So you, and then your kids, your family, whoever. And most people go, well, no, I need to take care of my family first. Problem is, if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you won't be conscious long enough to help other people in that situation. Because typically, if an oxygen mask drops, it's a rapid decompression situation, which means all of the oxygen is gone. So you need oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you're going to pass out. So if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you won't be able to help the other people. And that's the same thing with rest. You have to rejuvenate and re-energize and take care of yourself so that you can put the oxygen mask on others. Okay? So rest is productive, and I don't need to earn my peace. I don't need to earn it. I just get it. I can have my peace, just like all of you. It doesn't have to be earned. It's not something that you earn. It's inherent within you. You get peace. It's part of the human experience, okay? So I used to think that, if I worked really hard on this project, then I'd earn calm. I'd earn rest. I'd earn these things. And it never happened because I'd get all these things done and then the next thing comes. It's kind of like laundry or the mail, right? It never stops coming. Like Sunday, you get a break, but then it comes again on Monday. It never stops. Okay. So the last one I had was I can do less and it be enough. And this really shifted for me with kind of more of a CEO mindset of doing less and making a bigger impact. Because if you focus appropriately and if you focus on the tasks, the most important, the ones that create the most movement, then you're doing more than enough. It's enough because you focused appropriately. You're not spinning your wheels on 50 kind of meh tasks. You're focusing. This is the most important thing I need to get done right now because it will have the biggest impact later. If you do that and that's your focus, then you're not going to face the overcommitting, the obligations, the pressure, all of the things. Okay. It's the idea of work smarter, not harder, right? So I used to have people that worked for me, and a lot of times I would just do it myself. I'd just do the thing myself because it was harder to train them. The thing is, if I train them, it may take me longer now, but then they can repeat it and they can keep doing it. And if I'm good enough at it, then I should be able to train somebody else to do it. If I'm not good enough at it, then I can't train somebody else to do it. And so that kind of goes into a whole ego thing where are you good enough to train somebody else to do the things that you need done? So that's a different live topic. But work smarter, not harder. Always work smarter, not harder. Don't reinvent the wheel. If it already exists, use it. I had a job at one point, and it was crazy to me because there weren't existing processes and procedures. They were all being developed from scratch. And this was a massive company. And it was like, these are somewhere. These processes and procedures are all somewhere from other projects, other programs. They exist. Other people have done this. Why are we starting from scratch with this? This is stupid. It was just stupid. I didn't understand it. And we had just hundreds and hundreds of man hours dedicated to developing this stuff that existed elsewhere in the company. It did not make sense to me. And so I went and found it. It took me some time, but I went and found what we needed, brought it in, cut down the man hours, and then we had some people going through and changing things, highly skilled people who knew what needed to be done and everything. They would go in and pick and choose and change verbiage and things like that. And then what do you know? We have all the processes and procedures. So that's smarter, not harder. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about tools, because I'm starting to get short on time. So tools that help break the pattern, right? So a couple, you can do micro boundaries, okay? And we think about boundaries as setting up how people are allowed to interact with us, how they're allowed to be in our lives, things like that. That's big boundaries. But some micro boundaries are saying no to small things, okay? And it may even be, no, I can't go grab coffee today. Because maybe that coffee with that friend actually is emotionally draining. Or maybe you find out that every time after you do it, you get all riled up and you're just like, ah. So say no to that. That's still kind of a bigger boundary. But no, I can't do the thing right now, maybe later. There's lots of little things that you can do and say in the professional environment that are setting those micro boundaries, okay? And then nervous system care. So I always go back to nervous system care. It's all about your nervous system. If your nervous system is not taken care of, you're in fight or flight. So you can either be calm and at peace or in fight or flight. There's kind of no in between. And so maintaining and regulating your nervous system first is the most important thing. And I've gone over, I believe last week I did breath work. So you can do breath work, you can do screen breaks, cut down the amount of time you're on social media, you guys. I freaking hate social media. And then do a sensory reset. So if you don't know what a sensory reset is, it's often considered to be grounding. So I read a post yesterday for an influencer, she's a pretty famous coach, but she was talking about how things have been really tough lately. And so she went for a swim in the ocean. And to her, being in water, a shower, a bath, rain, any sort of water is grounding to her. And that is a sensory reset because you feel it. You feel the water on your skin, throughout your body. You have to breathe differently when you're being engulfed in water. And so that's a sensory reset. It's like going and walking barefoot in your yard, or using your senses to just feel what's around you. Feel your couch, feel your chair. Just feeling, for me, like the texture right here on my desk, that can be a sensory reset if it reminds me to check in and to ground, to find out where I am and everything, okay? And then the last one is simplifying routines. Sorry, I have notes I want to talk about so I stay on topic, and it's curling up. But so the final one, so simplified routines, right? If we need a structure that works for us, not against us, okay? So just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. We all have different things that work for us, and I'm not a one way person. It is not a set specific way that it all has to be done. I don't coach that way because we're all different. You get in ADHD, neurodivergence, dyslexia, you get autism, all these different things that are really our superpowers, but they dictate how we process differently, okay? And so how one person processes a task is going to be different than how somebody else processes that same task. Okay, so we need to simplify the systems in a way that works for you. All right, so I'm almost out of time. I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. So what we talked about today is really I broke the cycle of overwhelm, kind of shared with you guys my story, one particular story of overwhelm and how I identified it and then how to break out of it. Okay. And then some common cycles of being in overwhelm, just things that you'll see in that cycle. And it starts with the I'm doing great right now. If it's a right now, not always, or a good 95% of the time that you're great, then you've had the cycle, you've been in it, you've had the burnout and the breakdown and the overwhelm. It's awful. So there's the cycle. And then we talked about a few mindset shifts. So I did 4 mindset shifts and then some tools, 3 tools for helping to break the pattern. So next week, I want you guys to know I am doing a 5-day challenge next week. So that's starting Monday. So make sure you're paying attention in the group because those posts are going to come up. The challenge is Clear the Mental Clutter. It's the Clear the Mental Clutter challenge. And so that's going to be going on. And then it's going to end. And August 21st, I'm doing a free masterclass. That's the power of mental clarity. So the mental clutter challenge, going into mental clarity, it's going to be great. So in the links, I have a link to register for that free masterclass. Make sure you sign up because we're going to go over how to stop overthinking and take back control. And I have an incredible bonus for you guys. So just for attending, you get this incredible bonus. It's called the Burnout Buffer, okay? And it's instant tools to reset your mind and reclaim your energy. How freaking awesome is that? So you get that free tool, that burnout buffer, just for going to the masterclass. So come hang out with me next week and then on the 21st. Okay. So do this challenge, find out how, well, you get a little bit about how I coach. And next week, we'll also have a live that is associated with the challenge. All right. So have a great week, you guys. Oh, my mouse died again. So I can't end the live if my mouse dies. So have a great week, and I will see you guys for the challenge starting Monday. Bye.